a respiratory condition. It is advisable to avoid large crowds or other places where you might have to come in contact with people who are showing signs of the coronavirus. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
Alright guys, welcome back to Island Tea right here on Win Media SKN, and in the studio we have, like we said, some very special guests, friends of the show. They've been here before. We have
Mrs. Carlene Henry Morton, and she is the PS of the Ministry of Tourism, and we have Miss Melnecia, Miss or Mrs.?
Miss.
Miss?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Miss Melnecia Marshall, she's the Product Development Manager for the St. Kitts Tourism Authority.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome.
Morning, everyone.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And how are you ladies doing this morning?
We're doing pretty, I think, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
I
that's
would like to believe so.
sounds good to me.
Any day above 6 feet is a good day.
I'm telling you. Alright guys, well, you know, when you guys come here, there's stuff happening to do with tourism, obviously. So tell us what's going on.
Well, this morning we've stopped by, as you indicated, to speak to the general public and to alert everyone that on the 5th of October, Tuesday the 5th of October, the Celebrity Equinox returns. That vessel would have been here on Tuesday the 14th of September. It would have been the first vessel to dock at Port Zente since March 2020. And so we were really excited. We had all of the fanfare for the vessel when it arrived on the 14th. And so the vessel is returning on the 5th of October.
Okay, so stuff to look forward to. Stuff is happening. So they came and they're coming back.
They're back.
Yeah, which is a good sign.
All right, so obviously it's all about now getting back and rebuilding our sector. But we're still very early in that process, correct?
Yes, we are still very much early in the game. We are taking a very steady and cautious approach for many destinations and the cruise lines around the world. This approach is one that is being implemented because we are still in the global pandemic of the COVID-19 virus. And so as a result, everyone is taking a very safe approach. The health of the public remains a priority. And so as the vessel comes in, we are still in a testing phase. The destinations are testing, the cruise vessels, they are testing. And so we want to ensure that as we take these steps, that we are doing it safely. I do believe in one of the programs before, Mrs. Morton would have indicated, it's like having several pots on the stove. And you don't want to have too many pots on the stove and they start bubbling over. And so that is the approach that we are taking. We're taking a steady, cautious approach. We are analyzing each call. The last call went very well. We did not have any breaches. The integrity of the bubble was maintained. The traveler approved, fully vaccinated bubble sites, they were maintained. And so we are looking at the second call now to continue to measure that success and see where improvements may need to be made, and to see where we can further expand as we continue rebuilding the cruise sector.
Okay, so I know there've been things put in place, both on the tourism side, but the ships are also taking their precautions. They're not at full capacity yet, correct?
Mm-hmm. Only about a quarter, some maybe a third full, but definitely not anything close to full capacity at this time.
And
So they too are being very cautious in how they roll out and move into the recovery phase of the cruise industry.
So, for example, the vessel that is coming in, Celebrity Equinox, that is a vessel that normally has a capacity for approximately 3,800 passengers. When it was here on the 14th, the capacity was 1,247. So, as you can see, they are taking a very cautious approach. And believe it or not, when I asked the captain how the cruise is going, he said it's going well. Some of the passengers, they actually like it with this capacity because they have more attention from the crew in terms of the service. So they're taking a cautious approach as well as the destinations.
Yeah, so in terms of the precautions that you guys have been putting in place, we saw some of them last week. We're looking at having those similar things in place. I know one of the things that was discussed and what I saw personally was the fencing.
Yes.
What are some of the things that we could expect to be done in efforts to keep everyone safe?
Well, the fencing is going to be back, and I think that would be a strategy that will be implemented in the short to medium term. Everybody who operates at Port Zante, anybody who operates within the bubble, to make sure that you secure the integrity of the bubble, everybody has to be fully vaccinated. There would be special arrangements made for persons down on Port Zante to make sure that they get in. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, because we know right now you got to be the phone got to be one of the busiest phones in the nation.
And I thought that I would have turned it off. To be quite honest. So I'm sorry again. Right? So remember, even the sites and attractions that persons would have visited, that it made sure that the announcements were made ahead of time so that the general public knew to avoid those spaces. And I think on that note, we need to commend ourselves. By and large, I don't know of any breaches, no complaints, no reports of anybody going into spaces where they had been asked not to go. And I think that is a very good sign for us. To me, it shows that the general public understands what is on the table, what we are trying to achieve, and the importance of making sure that our guests have a very good experience while they're here, and the ships themselves feel confident that whatever the conditions are that we say that we would live up to, that we are indeed going to live up to them. And I think that we ought to applaud the general public for the patience that they're exhibiting.
Yeah, because I know it's not only Port Zante, but also several areas and venues across the island that are close to the general public on the days when the cruise ship come. You could remind us of these areas and these venues?
Carambola, Brimstone Hill, Caribel Batik, Fairview Great House, the Scenic Railway, and I think that those are...
And we also have Palm Court Gardens as well.
Palm Court Gardens added as well?
Yes.
The girl in the bathing suit can't go by. That's very good cars, very good cars.
You can go on the 4th or the 6th.
Okay.
Right.
Jiggy.
Remember all of those other days, they're available to us.
Jiggy.
Yes.
Yeah.
As if you go out in your,
Watch out.
Right.
My speedo drying right now. For the 4th and the 6th.
Okay.
Yes, you have lots of days that you can venture out.
Yeah.
But there any other restrictions that are in place to try and keep persons safe apart from the fencing and just not access? Because I know this is such a huge undertaking, and there's so many considerations in place. We're still looking at persons being vaccinated only who interact and stuff like that. Like, what are some of the other?
So, safety began first with the requirements for the vessel to come in. And so we have required that all of the passengers who are above the age of 12 years old, that they are fully vaccinated, and those who may be under 12, which would be the children, that they have a negative RT-PCR test. We have also asked that if the cruise is over 7 days and think it is after the 4th day, that a second test be administered prior to their arrival to the destination. And so safety actually began not when the vessel arrives, but the preparations leading up to the vessel arriving. And so that is one of the things that are in place. And then the second part is, of course, when the vessel is actually docked here in St. Kitts, we are asking that anyone who interacts with the cruise passenger, whether it be a linesman, a pilot, or security at Port Zante, tour operators, retail operators, employees at attraction sites, anyone who interacts with a cruise visitor, that they are fully vaccinated as well. And this is for our safety. We want to ensure that we keep the public safe. That is still our priority, while we aim to strike the sensitive balance between lives and livelihood.
So you mentioned like fully vaccinated, just for persons who may not be clear on exactly what that means, like that refers to persons who would have had both doses for the 2-dose vaccines and would have had the last shot up to 2 weeks?
Up to 2 weeks prior. So you would have had the second shot plus 14 days after receiving the second shot, or if it's a one shot in the case of Johnson & Johnson, because we do have some of our nationals who have received the Johnson & Johnson, it would be 2 weeks after receiving that dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, you know, there's these things that people have been talking about and hearing about, and some of these terms, things like the bubble tours and stuff like that. Like, what is it? What's like the bubble tour exactly? Because I think what's happening is that persons may not fully understand, the way these things work, and they may be looking for even cruise passengers walking through town and stuff like that. So,
well, let me first say that St. Kitts is not the only destination implementing what we call the bubble tours. A bubble tour is a tour that has individuals who have completed the travel-approved training that is administered by the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, the Ministry of Health. They have been fully vaccinated, as I would have explained before under the terms. And these individuals who are working in these sites, that they maintain the integrity of the site by not allowing persons who have not gone through that process to work at those sites on the days when the vessel are in, or to allow anyone from the general public to access the site. And so what is the bubble is really the cruise visitor and those fully vaccinated travel approved employees who are working at that site or in those areas. And so if the bubble is going to burst, it means that someone from the general public is going to enter to the site. And so that is why we're saying those sites are restricted on those days. Also, it's important because we do not want, if anything happens, that it becomes a contact tracing nightmare. You don't know who was there, what was happening. With these bubble vaccinated sites, there's better control. We're able to know, okay, these are the employees, because the sites are asked to submit the names of the employees prior.
Beforehand, yeah.
Yes. So we have a list. So we know, okay, Mary Jane, Susan, Sue, they were working on the 5th of October. So God forbid anything has to happen, it's easy to ensure that we can contact those persons, rather than having to figure out how many persons from the general public may have been in that site, in addition to the cruise visitors, in addition to
the staff. Yeah.
To the staff.
Okay. And so that means the bubble tours and the pre-approved sites, these are where we can expect that the visitors to be congregating, and that's where they're going to be. That's the places on the island they're going to be experiencing. So we shouldn't see, like, a couple of years ago, I had to go stop and ask this tourist, Miss, were you walking up Fort Thomas Road?
Right, and we're used to seeing that back in 2019 when we had 1 million passengers, 2018, and maybe walk to Bastille and we just see them wandering around. But as we go through this phase of rebuilding and ensuring the safety of our nationals, our visitors, the crew, the passengers on board, they're not permitted to integrate into society freely. So we're not just going to see taxi operators randomly driving around Bastille, or the guests walking around Bastille on their own. We have already communicated that during this first phase, as we take this steady and cautious approach, that the visitors will not be permitted to just independently integrate into society.
But I mean, I think we understand that. I'm trying to keep, people as safe as possible. But there's been a lot of conversation in regards to persons who independently book tours, and if they're allowed to do so at this time. Is that the case, or is there still some restrictions to that type of activity?
There are some restrictions still, because we know that in the past persons have had their preferred taxi driver who they would prefer to, give the particular individual that opportunity to take them around. They feel comfortable with them. They come every year, every 2 years, and they have struck up this relationship, this friendship, and so they feel comfortable. But we are not at that stage as yet where you can open the floodgates and just about everybody who wants to come in can come in. One, I'm hoping that some of those persons who are agitating for that they're fully vaxxed, and that they themselves have attended the travel-approved training. And that is something that we would look towards integrating into the bubble at some point, once we are comfortable that the stage that we are at now, that everybody is adhering, the protocols are being observed, nobody is breaching, and so on. Because from what I've been made to understand, there is another, I'm going without actually mentioning, there's another site, another attraction that is going to be added, hopefully in time for when the 5th comes, once the site is inspected and they meet all of the requirements. And so it is a gradual, very measured, very cautious type of approach to make sure that as we expand, we also keep people, our own local public and the guests as well. Across the board, everybody is as safe as we possibly can make them, and that we do not invite into the bubble anything that, because what can happen is that we can throw back the floodgates, everybody comes, and then in the next 2 months, no ships come in again because we have a disaster on our hands. That does not make sense.
Understood.
Yeah, and I earlier you spoke about how the cruise ships are not at the full capacity and all of these things. How has that impacted the spend that the tourists would have been doing? Because usually when tourists come, the shops in Port Zante full, the tours are filled, and the money coming into the nation is probably way more than where it is now. So what's going on with that situation?
And so that is why we're encouraging our visitors to engage in the tours that are available. In 2019 and prior to that, the BRIA study of 2018, the FCCA BRIA study indicated that our spend per passenger was about $135.94 US. We know that is not the case. We have had a global pandemic. We have had persons who have been laid off from their jobs. This is not just unique to St. Kitts. And so we anticipate that it's going to take a little bit of time for us to return to that level. Not just because, it's the visitor spend, but remember as well, just as well as some of us here in our own country, we have had our limitations because of the pandemic. We have not been able to earn the way that we would have been doing prior to the pandemic. And it's the same for everyone across the board. And so we expect a gradual return in terms of the spend. And so what we want to do is to ensure that as we continue this process, that we, as much as possible, increase the benefits, but that will only happen if we have success in what we're doing at this point in time. And so this gradual approach, the steady approach, is needed to ensure that we can safely build. It's like if you're trying to build with your Lego blocks, and you just kind of throw them on top of each other. There's no method to the madness. Eventually, it's going to fall. We don't want that. So we want to ensure that as we put the building blocks in place, that there's a firm foundation for us to move forward.
What you don't want as well, and I like my analogies. I taught literature, I can't help. What you don't want is that you basically kill the proverbial goose that is laying the golden egg because you feel that all of the eggs are in there and you want them now.
Right.
You understand what I mean? You have to give the bird a chance to make fresh eggs and gradually come along. You understand what I mean? It doesn't make any sense to want all of it all at once, and then something goes wrong, and then you lose all of it all at once.
Right.
Gradual, steady, making sure that with each ship that comes. We go back to the drawing board, we assess, were there any breaches, no matter how small? Maybe they weren't big enough to create a whole catastrophe, but we could have tightened up in this area. We try to make sure that we do that as best as we can and so on. And so it's slow and steady. Painful at times, yes, but we feel that that is the way to go. If you want it to be sustainable, if you want it to last, you want to make sure that you preserve people's health. You want to make sure that the ship comes back. You don't want that they call you and say, listen, you all did not live up to the conditions, that we had settled on, because we went to X place, and when we got there, a whole set of locals were down there. We don't even know if they're vaccinated. We don't know who went to the travel. You understand what I mean? It's a bargain that you would have struck, and everybody has to maintain their end of the bargain as best as you can. And that is what we are trying to do, to make sure we are St. Kitts is concerned. Due diligence is done. And if any questions are asked of us, we can say, listen, we did not breach. These are the things that we told you that we were going to put in place, and we can tick every single box and assure you that that is what was done.
And I just want to say that we may not have all the answers. We do not have all the answers. What every destination is trying to do at this point is to implement a strategy that they think is going to work. A global pandemic is uncharted waters for many of us. And so each person, each destination, each cruise line is right now trying their different formulas. Is this going to work? Is this not going to work? If this doesn't work, then we can try this. And so that is why, yes, we know it is frustrating, but we're asking for patience as we go through this process.
I appreciate it, because I think, there's obvious concerns about, safety and things, and it seems as though there is a huge effort on the part of the ministry and the authority to really try and keep the nation safe. There's been questions, and this is the last question because we kind of have to go. Time is running us down. But there's been a lot of questions and concerns as it relates to persons being able to earn and the struggles that we're facing in this growth back to what we knew prior to COVID. And we had a caller here who expressed some of those concerns. Is there a way, and we know you've been doing a lot of consultation with the stakeholders, but is there a way or something in place where people can reach out with these concerns directly to you to try and get some answers, try and figure out, even clarify some of the questions that they may have about the situations or the struggles that they may be facing?
Yeah, people call, listen, I know that people have their own concerns and challenges and so on, but I can assure you that people call us every day. There are persons who don't come on the air, to necessarily, and that is a right that people have. But just as you saw my phone ringing, that happens a lot every day. And the explanations that we are giving to people here, they don't change the same explanations that we are adding. And to empathize and to ask them to hold, keep the faith, hold the fort and everything and so on, and that we are doing the best that we can. We too are frustrated. What I want people to understand, every ship that comes to St. Kitts is a ship that could have gone somewhere else. Out there, the market is tense and it is competitive. So we should celebrate the ships when they come. Everybody may not be able to get work whenever a ship comes in, but we are doing the very best we can. Every minute there is a meeting where we are negotiating. We are going back to the drawing board. We are trying to see what ships we can entice to come to St. Kitts. And they love St. Kitts. And I think that once things settle down and people begin to see that these tours are being successfully managed, and so we will see more ships coming. And we will see a broader expansion of tours and sites and attractions and so on and so forth. But that takes time. You have to build trust. You have to build confidence. And we're asking our people, again, our stakeholders, to just work with us. Help us collectively to manage the process. It's not easy. I am not saying to anybody that it is easy, but I'm saying that it is a process. And so we have to go through the teething pains of that process to bring ourselves out to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is taking some time, but so far so good. As the old people say, do we have any board in here? Let me knock. Mm-hmm. It seems to be working. And we ask you again to continue to work with us, because we believe that we have a structured, very measured approach that is very practical, and it will deliver the results that we are looking for.
And I just want to add that even though we may sense and feel, during this first phase, it's tense, everyone is not benefiting. I know that has been the cry over the past few weeks and months and so forth, but I want to say something that is important for us to understand, that when the pre-booked tours are going out, these tours that are sold on board the cruise vessel, these tours are facilitated by local operators. The cruise vessels are not coming off the vessel and completing their own tours. These tours are facilitated by our own local people, our nationals and our residents. Our nationals and residents are also benefiting. Our nationals and residents are the ones who are working on the train. Our nationals and residents are the ones who are driving the tour buses. Our nationals and residents are the ones who are the independent taxi operators. Our nationals and residents are the ones who are working at Caribel Batik. Our nationals and residents are the ones who are working at Brimstone Hill. And so our people are benefiting. Even for the pre-booked tours, we have local tour operators who are subcontracted to provide services for some of these tours. So the notion that it is out there that our nationals are not benefiting when the vessels are here, that is incorrect, because our nationals and residents are the ones that are providing the service as the host company.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and hopefully persons continue to work alongside you guys, and you guys work alongside them to try and come up with the best possible solutions as we try to navigate the pandemic and moving forward and building back the sector to what it once was. Any last words before we end off?
Well, we just want to thank you for having us. As usual, we are always here to share the information that we have. We want to thank the general public for continuing to support. We're asking, again, we know it is difficult, but we're asking for patience. Even if you have, as you would have indicated earlier, information that you would like to share, you can contact the St. Kitts Tourism Authority or the Ministry of Tourism. We are also continuing to operate on the restrictions. We're still in a global pandemic. The cruise lines are operating on the CDC guidelines. They too cannot just go about and do everything that they want to do the way that they want to do it. And so we're just seeking for the cooperation, and we thank you. We thank you for your continued support.
Same here. I want to say thanks to Win FM. We deeply appreciate your open door policy. I don't think we have ever called to, appear on your program and you have said no. And by the same token, if we are invited, we always try to carve that space into our schedule to be able to come to speak to the general public. We don't have anything that we are hiding. As much as we possibly can, we want to make sure that stakeholders are aware of what the procedures are and the strategies that we're implementing. And we want to make sure that as best as we can, the recovery process is very safe and sustainable. I think that is something that we need to continue to chew on and to remind ourselves. We don't want a big bang, open and everything, and in the next couple of weeks we have to shut back down. That really is counterproductive. It doesn't make very much sense. It's not very practical. And so we want to adopt the slow, steady, measured approach that we have been adopting. And we, like Melnecia said, we say thank you to all those persons who have been adhering, and we look forward to better days. We are very optimistic that better days, brighter days, more progressive days in tourism are ahead of us.
All right, guys. Well, again, I appreciate you guys taking the time out to come and speak to us about everything that's happening and clear up some of the concerns that people may have and just alert us as to what's happening next week as we come to expect the ship on Tuesday, guys. So, yeah, guys, there's things that have been put in place. We had the trial run last week, and we continuing moving forward towards trying to reopen the sector and grow it back to what we knew it was.
Yeah.
I think it's the amazing destination that we know it is.
And we're looking forward to more conversations with the Tourism Authority when it comes to these things, the concerns of anybody, the entrepreneurs, the people who are in this industry. Open and honest discussions are things that people need, and we appreciate you guys coming and doing that with us. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, anytime you need to come back, or